As we talk about common good, that's really on page 52, 53, a little bit on page 54 in your book. Now, we're talking about how we live honestly as our neighbor's keeper. We already care about other people. Now, the world just gets selfish and it's all about me and, about our thing and not worry about other people. But the way the planet was started by God was for all of us to cooperate, you know? For all of us to have some integrity, to have something really good in us that does care about other people and not just me. And I know that one time someone came up to Jesus and they said, "Who is my neighbor? Who is my neighbor? Like, who do I have to care about? You know?" And I think maybe a way we could answer that in a modern way is what if you're the person that's in need? Okay? What if something happens to you? Let's say you're out for a bike ride, you're going down a bike trail, okay? You're not thinking that you're going to have a crash, okay? But you do, okay? You don't have any ID on you because you didn't think about bringing it, okay? Your phone, you can't tell who you are by your phone. And you crash and you have a serious enough accident that you require help, okay? And the question is, who's going to see you as a neighbor? Okay, will you want someone to see you as a neighbor? Will you want somebody to actually stop and give you a hand? Or are you just going to lay there and even have people go by you on the bike trail? And it's probably not a lot of people going by that spot. So you're really hoping that somebody will be just, that someone will have integrity, that someone will feel responsible to you even though you're a stranger, that someone will not go by, which is dishonest, but honestly will stop. They say, hey, now that person might be in a hurry, so maybe they can just call for help. And if another person comes and they stop, then somebody's there to take care of things, okay? But we really are meant to count on each other. We're not looking to get into accidents. We're not looking to get into trouble. We're not looking for any of that. But another thing is we count on other people to be honest, okay? So if I'm coming to a stop sign, I know you don't drive yet, okay? But I know you want to drive. I know that a lot of you would like to learn how to drive soon, okay? Maybe you get a chance to drive go-karts or bumper cars or drive other kinds of things, okay? Maybe been on a dirt bike or something, or an ATV vehicle. They're just fun, okay? But there's certain rules of the road. Like one is, if you come to a stop sign, a four-way stop sign, it's counting on everybody to follow that. Why? Because that's how we are personally responsible to each other, okay? That we're going to follow these basic things we've set up for traffic, okay? If not, if someone just goes flying through the stop sign, just maybe flooring it and going really fast, okay? You could be the one that's in the path. But you were counting on some social responsibility from them, and it would be a total surprise to get plowed into, you know? I try to remember this joke about these two guys, and they're normally on the opposite ends of the country, and they're famous for driving in these places like Phoenix and Las Vegas, where there's a lot of room to drive, long stretches of highway. And then you come into the city of Phoenix or Las Vegas, and then you start hitting into your first traffic signals and lights, okay? And both these guys, Barney and Harry, okay, they would never stop for any of those. Okay, they would just go flying through, and they would have really loud music, and their motors were loud, so they were hoping everybody just get out of their way. So one day, though, Harry and Barney were in the same city. And Barney's driving, and he's coming up to a four-way stop. And all of a sudden, he stops. There's a person in the car with him. They go, Barney, you never stop. Why did you stop? He goes, oh, my brother's in town. My brother's in town. He might be coming through the other way. He never stops. So that's the reason why I stopped. Just because Barney... And you think of how that's just a joke, but in society we do have laws, and humankind has tried to set up ways of government, and we've tried to have different ways of having public authority, and it's called civic authority, where an area of the country, a city, a county, a state, is governed by people trying to keep the law. So you would have like traffic police. Okay, they're just trying to maintain good order. Why do they give tickets out to people? Because they're risking everybody else's lives by driving 110 miles an hour, or running through lights, or just being reckless in their cars. There has to be a way, even if they keep offending these laws, to not just give them tickets, but give them points. And if you get points against your license, you get to so many points, they take away your driver's license. They do. And you have to go before a judge before you can get back to driving again. Some people go to jail even for such kind of things. Now, those are crimes where it's just you being selfish, but there are other crimes in society where it's a lot more being selfish. It's taking other people's property, taking other people's good name, and just doing wrong. And so, page 53 is mostly about how in the United States, when we had our Declaration of Independence and then wrote other things, the Articles of Confederation, the Constitution, we had words like living under God, that there are laws, and that God made laws in this world and nature. He made moral laws. He made ways for us to live. He revealed things. Even the Ten Commandments are followed by a lot of different religions, the Jews and all Catholics and Christians, and some other people have forms of the Ten Commandments in their own religion. So we try to create common order, okay? Conditions for people, to be fair to each other. In our language in the country, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that we should have that, okay? And then there's what we call conscience, where everybody can think things through. And some people have very strong reason and very developed reason, or very developed conscience. They really have developed what right and wrong is, or they really thought it through, what would be the fair way for them to live in this world. And so when we talk about being a Catholic, it's not just me just living for God alone and I'll get to heaven and that's that. We live in this world. We live in the world, and we're asked to take part in everyday society. We are to respect the law that's around us, even if some things are a little done imperfectly. But there is no perfect system, okay? There is no perfect system. But we do our best to keep passing or making laws that people are protected or people are looked out for, okay? So with that picture of the world, and I think that's the United States on there, it's a painting by a Chinese-American painter, Diane Ong, and it's called Save the World. And so if everybody does their part, and nobody's perfect again, but if we try to pursue what is good for the other person and then good for ourselves, we might be able to have some harmony here on the earth. So taking down a look at the planet like as God sees us, what does he see? Does he see a just society? Does he see people in a lot of sin and just being careless and carefree about others? Now, it's people who work together, who try to love. Those are the people that, are people that are listening to the voice of God. God is trying to inspire that on his earth. And we call it social sin when you're involved in the things in the world where we're just gonna care less, and you're just gonna not only sin and do wrong, do evil, do bad on your own, but you're not going to actually encourage other people to do it, as if let the whole society kind of go this way. Social sin is when you participate directly and freely in another person's sin. So if they're doing something wrong and you decide, I'm going to take part in it too, okay, now you've just furthered, the trust is broken down in our world, because you're going to both be up to no good. When you advise or praise other people for their wrongdoings, okay, when you approve of it. That is also social sin. It's not good for the harmony and the balance of people. When we fail to appropriately disclose or hinder another person's sin, when we have the opportunity to do so, like, having the courage to warn somebody, hey, the classic one is don't take drugs, don't do that. I know some people older than us that did it and they're really messed up. Okay? When you protect those who do evil, that's another social sin, and it just disrupts the harmony to the planet when you're actually letting evil thrive. Now, there's a lot of evil thriving on planet Earth right now, and it's because a lot of good people aren't standing up to it, or they're even winking at it, or they're being swept away in it and not thinking that they're that bad after all, because there's always worse people than you. We're rolling over to page 54, 55. You'll see that I just pretty much talked about social sin there. And there's an exercise at the bottom. We'll have you do that after we talk about what's on the other page there. You probably read, that part there about the Catholic worker movement, and this lady, Dorothy Day, and she's depicted in that picture. And that's a picture that's from, I think, the 1970s when she was an older woman. She was a New Yorker, and when she was a youth, she was into a lot of stuff that's not so great. But then she had a conversion, but she always felt like, I'm going to be a Christian, but I'm also going to be an activist. I'm going to be a Christian, not just centering on just saying my prayers and being good, but I want to be active and help the world change around me. And she lived in city. So New York City and Brooklyn's part of it, is, it's a pretty big place. And if you've ever been in a big city, you see the homeless, you see people that are hungry, you see people that look like maybe they're mentally ill or something and they're not being taken care of. You see abandoned people, even like in New York, runaway children, runaway teens, just lost people. It's easy to hide when you're among hundreds of thousands of people in a city. People may not even notice it at first, that they might be sleeping in the subway or something. I recently was at a hotel, and when I came out of the hotel, I was on my way to visit a hospital 2 blocks away, and I went through a park, and there was all these people sleeping in the park. And so I noticed, though, that people in the hospital that are used to seeing them, they're not walking by them anymore. They bring them coffee, they bring them breakfast, they say hello to them. And I was thinking, those are decent people, okay? And I'm glad that those people are the ones going in to work at the hospital, the doctors, the nurses, the employees, because that hospital is going to get a lot of good care for their patients. Because look, they're even taking care of strangers out here, and they don't have to. That's what Dorothy Day always felt like people should do. Pick the thing that you can do. It might just run right in your path, and you say, hey, maybe I can do something here. I can be active. So Dorothy Day, she noticed that one thing that people might need is food and shelter. And she just called it hospitality. And she said, we're going to have a hospitality house, and we're not going to embarrass you. When you come in, we're going to treat you like you're a rich person checking into our hotel. We're going to be very just to you, very fair. We're going to try to get free care for you, try to get some people that can, make a difference for you, and find out your story. Now some people, they're really bad off, whatever it is that caused them to be out there. But Dorothy Day said, I've converted to be a Christian, but I know that Christ lives in me, and I know that Christ wants a few things done through me, so I think I'm going to be a role model for it. So she was. So Catholic worker houses, there's one in Rockville, Maryland, not far away from here. So the thing that she started in New York is spread all over the place. I think your book said there's something like 140 Catholic worker communities. That's like groups of people, all being like Dorothy Day, caring for people and running houses, running ministries, doing stuff. Okay? That's our church making a difference. We need people like Dorothy Day, Catholic workers, okay? And what it is you're just trying to build to a just society. You just want society that you're a part of to be honorable and fair, morally right. You want people to get their due. There's some people that just do some respect, okay? Like some elderly get treated, poorly these days just because they're elderly or they don't have a lot of health or strength. And I've seen a few of them knocked down because they're in the way of somebody. And I'm like, really? Are you that cruel a person that you're going to do that to a person there? Why don't you see that person and see that maybe you can do just a favor for them, okay? Or at least be polite to them, okay? And so anyway, there's a thing on the bottom of the page I'd like you to think about. And I'd like you to pause and take a moment to write an answer. What are some of the things you see people doing to build a just society? What's something that you admire and say, yeah, I could see myself doing that? Now you're in 7th grade, okay? So teenagers can do so much. Adults sometimes are big time in ministries, okay? But still you can say, I like what that person's doing, okay? So for me, I'd write down the fact that a guy from my parish was my soccer coach. And he spent like 3 nights a week with us, showing us how to play soccer. And then we were on a soccer team. A lot of us were from the same church. And we learned a lot from that coach. And we realized that he's not getting paid. He didn't have to do this, okay? He's doing it because he likes making a difference with the youth in his community. He lived just about 4 or 5 streets away from me. And I was like, hey, we appreciate that. I still remember his name, Mr. Marsh. I still remember him. And when I see of other soccer coaches these days, I think, there's some people just like Mr. Marsh running around today. And maybe someday you'll be that kind of a person, okay? When I was in high school, I was an assistant coach to a team. Maybe you can be an assistant, to a team or something. Just a thing that you can do. But you'll see it. You'll see what it is. It could be something really easy, even in your neighborhood. You might see something and say, a guy like me, or a girl like me, and maybe with a few others, we can make a difference there. Okay? We can make a difference. So write down something. I'm going to give you a moment to write it down. Our first picture here, we have just people acting in cardinal virtues. We're talking about moral virtues. Cardinal virtues, there are 4 of them: prudence, justice, fortitude, and temperance. It's right on the bottom, page 56 and 57. Those 4 big words are 4 ways of living in goodness, okay, morally. We call them the cardinal virtues, okay? So prudence, okay, that guy pushing the guy in the wheelchair, okay? It's that wisdom to choose things that are right, okay? So this guy is prudent in that he's saying, that kid that lives down the street from me, I notice sometimes he's trying all on his own to go up and down the block. And he's by himself. I guess he has no siblings. I think I'm going to offer to walk with him or even help him get up the hill, and so say, I'll give you a hand going up the hill, and just talk to him, Why? Just put yourself in that guy's position. He's limited, but he's probably a cool guy. He just needs to make a friend, so you can do that, okay? Prudence, okay? And then temperance, okay? Another one. Temperance is the attitude and habit that exercises self-control, okay? Temperance sometimes can be how you hold your tongue, how you don't say something that's ridiculous. And like when teams are around adults, sometimes you feel like saying something. You feel like saying something that may be a little selfish or impolite. And here's a case with girls just having a very nice, warm conversation. And she knows that this is the attitude that's going to really make things work between her and, I don't know, maybe that's her aunt, okay? And, and just talking. It's like temperance is a good thing. If people could just exercise a little self-control or guidance to see what is the right thing to do in the moment, but never to go too overboard. So the next 2 things are justice and fortitude. I'm going to show you another picture from your book that you can look at yourself. Hey, justice gives you the strength to respect the rights of every person. Okay. I remember this movie I watched many years ago. It still shows, so maybe you know it too. It's called Sandlot. About these guys that play in a neighborhood to kind of pick up baseball. And there's a neighbor they're all kind of afraid of. He has this really mean dog, and they hit the ball in his yard, and they have to go get the ball. It's the last ball. They want to keep playing. And they find out the man's kind of an interesting man. And especially the main character in the book, he has to go in and talk to this guy while his friends are outside. And they realize that he's a neighbor that's, needs a little attention. He's by himself a lot, and he actually loves baseball, and he watches the kids play, but isn't really, he doesn't get he's too old now to play. And it turns out at the end of the movie that they all go in and start talking to him a lot about baseball, and they find out that he used to play, and he was very, very good. And they get a memento from him. And at the end of the movie, they all grow up and they move away, and they're adults, but they all remember, a lesson when they had the strength to respect this neighbor and to get to know him instead of letting fear get the worst of them. They even made friends with the mean dog. Okay, the last one is fortitude. And there's a picture on your book that is going to show a lot of people helping each other. And fortitude helps you overcome obstacles and try again, or it helps you get something done by doing it together. Fortitude is another word for courage, strength, inner strength, standing up for yourself, for your values. Okay, we're almost getting ready to go out of this chapter here. And if we were in a classroom together, or was working one-on-one here, we would talk about a movie, a TV show, or a book, or story, where you saw characters acting with some practical wisdom, choosing the right thing together, or just themselves, or acting justly, being a champion for fairness for somebody, or having fortitude, overcoming something together, or getting the inner strength, or showing some restraint, showing some temperance, having a balance about things, which helps you to be a better person, and maybe a better person than another person. Okay, so just I'd like you to write down in the spot there in the page what you're thinking of, what story or movie thing can you think of that reminds you of what we just covered. All right, on page 58, doing the pray and review. So we'll just talk about some words you learned here, some vocabulary, virtues. Healthy, good habits you just get into doing, okay? One that was hard for me for a while was making my bed. After I got up, left my bed, it's easy just to leave it in a mess. I think it's because when I was a kid, my mom would always make it. But after a while, she was like, hey, you should make your own bed. Just like you should brush your own teeth, right? Moral virtues, number 3 there on top of page 58. Remember, those are the 4 things we just talked about, the cardinal virtues, the moral virtues, temperance, prudence, justice, fortitude. Common good, how are we doing this together? Common good. Whether we're talking about church, our common good, we're talking about out there, in the world, or even for, a school or some other group. What's common good? That we're all kind of included here. We all get respected, all get participate. Theological virtues, remember those are 3 things: faith, hope, and love. Society, everybody's born somewhere. Everybody goes and lives in different places, I remember I was comparing the path I took and the path a neighbor took. So I became a priest, and I was in a church, and she grew up and married somebody that wasn't such a good person and had a kind of a miserable life and lived in a kind of a miserable place. And then they had a child, and the child was sick a lot. And it was because of the place they lived in and the way that the parents didn't have respect for themselves. And And I remember meeting her, and at first I felt sorry for her, but I didn't want to show that really. I felt sorry for her, but I was like, no, I really need to show her some love. Not really like a hug or kiss love, but I mean, I had to say, hey, so you might need some help, huh? You might need some help. So, but we both, interestingly enough, grew up on the street away from each other. But somehow things took a turn where maybe she didn't make a right choice or two, and she ended up being pretty poor. And for me, I don't know how I ever ended up where I was to be the priest in the church, near her place. She lived in a trailer park. Eventually, she was homeless with that boy. And it was a good thing I got to know her, because we're able to take care of her, and she was like just not left out on the street. But that's society, wherever you may live in a good neighborhood, you may live in a kind of a troublesome neighborhood. But that's where God's got you right now. So you're going to try to make a difference where you are, and then later on in life, try to make a difference. Social sin is when you're just cooperating with all the bad that's going on. You're kind of approving it or even joining in. When I was a kid, I did live in a pretty safe place where that other girl had lived. And it was so safe, there were so many good neighbors, that you probably won't believe this, but we never locked our doors. We actually never had to lock our doors in our neighborhood. We had so many houses, and the streets were all like spaghetti streets, and it was kind of hard for a stranger to drive into our neighborhood. But everybody just kind of left their doors open. People were all kind of watching out for each other too, but things were pretty safe. Do you know that same place now, everybody locks things up, and there's lots of things that are being stolen these days. In that same place where I used to live, the neighborhood has changed a bit, and a lot more selfish people running around. And I feel bad, because I know the people that used to live next door to us that still do. And they say, oh, we wish we had you as neighbors back in the good old days, because the neighbors that we've had next door have been nothing but bad to us. And I think, oh, that's too bad. That really is. Okay? The main idea is then just take one of those 6 categories up there and just say, how does that strike you? Do you talk about virtues? What are the healthy, good habits you got going, or which ones you want to develop with the help of God's strength in you? Okay? Or, what is society like around me? Is it good? Is it average? Is it bad? Is it maddeningly poor? Okay? And then, what is a just society? Now we're going to do the prayer on the bottom of 58, really on the side of page 58. I think we're ready to close it up here, okay? I hope I didn't talk too much. It was mostly me at the end of the chapter here. I hope I said something that, got you thinking, something that can improve the way that you're seeing the world, something that can lift your faith, help you be a better person. I hope something like that happened here. Now we're going to just pray a prayer that is said at Easter time, and I like this prayer. And let's finish with the prayer called Prayer for Easter Virtues. Pray it along with me if you can out loud. Lord Jesus, your resurrection has given me new life and renewed hope. Grant me the wisdom to know what I must do, the will to want to do it, the courage to undertake it, the perseverance to continue to do it, and the strength to complete it. Amen. That'll do it. Next time we're going to do the Holy Spirit chapter, okay? And remember the routine here. You read the book, okay? You can fill out things ahead of time if you want. We give you a little time on the tape here. And number 2, you watch Mrs. De Jesus's review that she's been preparing for you each week. And then you just go to the discussion time, which could be me with someone or me alone with you. And that's the routine. See you next time.